I think you asked the right question just a few minutes ago. Heather, you said why? Why is the press not covering this? Why don't people want to get to the bottom of it? As Joe just mentioned, what's the agenda here? I mean, I think it's interesting. The same people who are saying there's nothing here were the people who told us you could trust the Steele dossier. They're the same people who said, oh, you can trust the anonymous whistleblower, the impeachment whistleblower that none of us got to talk to, that I didn't get a chance to cross-examine, that the American people never got to evaluate, who was bringing this allegation against the president. So they're the same people who said, don't investigate, nothing to see here, even though if you go back before the election day, if I'd have told you that the Republicans are going to keep the Senate, Republicans are going to pick up 12 seats in the House of Representatives, we're going to maintain every state legislature and add one, New Hampshire, to that list, and the president of the United States is going to get 10 million more votes than he got 4 years ago, but he's not going to win. You just said there is no way that's going to happen. But that's exactly what played out. And that's why there are 73 million Americans who instinctively understand something doesn't feel right here. And now you got all these affidavits, you got all these irregularities. Just yesterday in Georgia, they found 5,000 votes that had never been counted, and the election was 2.5 weeks ago. So all we're saying is, let's just check it all out. We got 25 more days till the Electoral College meets. You know, they spent 4 years on the Russia hoax. Why can't we spend 4 weeks figuring out if, in fact, some of these allegations, if, in fact, they're true? And it sure looks like there's some evidence to support many of them. So let's let it play out and let's get to the bottom of it for the good of the American people and the good of our election system.
Yeah.
Would you see any scenario in which the legislatures should actually do the choosing of electors? Or do you think the process will play out so it actually will end up, the votes will dictate who represents that state?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say. I mean, again, if you'd have said going into this recount in Georgia, do you think we're going to find three counties that didn't count several thousand ballots? You just said, well, I've never heard of that before, but that's exactly what played out. There's 3 counties that just found ballots. There's 156 other counties in the state of Georgia. So I think we got to go all through this. And, I do know in Pennsylvania, for example, there are things in Pennsylvania that I've never seen before. And I've been around politics 20-some years. I've never seen what took place in Pennsylvania, where they allow votes to come in after Election Day, where you didn't even have to be able to distinguish the postmark date on the envelope that came in, where you had some counties in the state allow voters to cure their ballot. Other counties didn't. You had some counties allow a pre-canvass. Other counties didn't. You had some counties which set up temporary satellite voting places. Other counties did it, all within one state. So there are a whole host of problems in that state. We know what happened in Georgia. We know what's going on in Wisconsin, Michigan with the lawsuits in Michigan. I think you got to let this all play out, and we'll just see where it takes us.
You know, do you think that the time crunch is really specifically going to be a problem? I mean, you go through some of these affidavits, and you're right, specifically this person that Rudy Giuliani was talking about, Jesse Jacob from Detroit, Michigan. She, in her affidavit, says that she was trained to adjust mail-in ballot dates on absentee ballots. She was trained not to invalidate or look for deficiencies. Now, that's just one that we know of out of 220 across the country.
Right. And it was reported yesterday where the rejection rate was a certain percent in a normal year. This year, with all the mail-in ballots coming in, it was a much lower rejection rate, even though you had a much higher number of mail-in ballots come in. So, again, I think it just underscores what the American people want to see happen, which is check it out. This is about the integrity of the election system in the greatest country in history. I think it can take a few weeks if it needs to. I think we have time. So let the process, let the law, let the Constitution, let that guide us. And let's just go through it and figure out what exactly took place.
Yeah. Do you think if we go through that process, which would include the lawsuits being heard and ruled on, some sort of response to them, and we go through the certification process and the states say that's the number and we're sending electors, will you have confidence in the results if on December 14th it comes out a way that you don't want it?
Well, I mean, I don't like to get into all the hypothetical, but I think we should play through it.
Sure.
We should work through it. And if, in fact, we follow the law, follow the process, adhere to the Constitution, adhere to the rule of law, I think the American people will have confidence in that. But that's not what the Democrats want. The Democrats want to stop this. The Democrats say, oh, nothing to see here, even though we misled you for 4 years, even though we had a Trump-Russia investigation. When Rick Grinnell finally released the transcripts, all the key players, Clapper, Rice, all these key players said, well, there was never really any evidence of collusion, even though we did a 4-year investigation, even though we spent millions and millions of dollars, even though we put the country through that. These are the same people now are saying, oh, don't look at this, nothing here. I say we look at it. Let's play it all out. And then if we play it all out and we actually get to examine everything, then I think the American people have confidence. But what I'm concerned about is they won't let us examine anything based on the fact that we've heard nothing from Chairman Nadler, nothing from Chairwoman Maloney about the letter we sent them yesterday saying, why aren't you guys, the Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, the two committees in Congress most responsible for looking at this, why aren't you guys doing it? Yeah. You spent all these years, you spent all this time on the Russia hoax, you spent all this time on an anonymous whistleblower impeachment hoax. Why aren't you looking at this? So I think that's the key for the American people.
Speaking of oversight, what about these voting machines? I mean, there have been problems previously. We don't want this to happen again in another election, all the problems and issues that we're seeing right now. Right. Speak to the oversight that happens with these manufacturers and these companies.
I hope we do an investigation. And I will point this out. We weren't the first ones to say there were some concerns with Dominion. It was Democrat senators. It was Elizabeth Warren and others a year ago. So, I mean, for goodness sake, if Democrat senators expressed concerns a year ago, why in the world wouldn't Jerry Nadler and Chairwoman Maloney on the Oversight Committee, why wouldn't they want to look at this? And that's what we point out. It was a brief letter. Ranking Member Comer and I sent the letter. We said, hey, here's some of the concerns. Let's check it out.